Hidely ho, and welcome to another Roll for Crit podcast, the official podcast for the board game online website, rollforcrit.com. I'm Jonathan Estes.
And I'm Will Keeler. And before we begin, your lucky rolls today are 5, 7, 13, and 12.
I was this close to a critical hit. If only the last one had been a 20. I don't know how jokes work. I don't know how numbers work. Anyway, very cool topics of discussion for today. So a couple not so cool topics though that we're going to start with to get you eased in. Also, I hope you're enjoying the month of October. We're all decked out for Halloween right now, if you haven't noticed. Our good friend Skeleton back there.
Took a little while for us to dig up the skeleton, but we got it.
Yeah, we finally got him out of our closet. There's a lot of stuff in there. So, you're going to see the Settlers of Catan, actually just Catan now, box behind us. There's a good reason for that. It's because they have now officially announced that they are moving forward. Sony Pictures is moving forward with the official Catan film project, which is something that we've kind of heard rumblings about before. Now it is really happening. There's a couple producers on board. There's a writer on board. The writer is named Blaze Hemingway. They are not someone who has a lot of credits to their name, but they are also writing the upcoming adaptations of the Playmobil property.
Playmobil?
You know, the little not Legos with they're like little kids sort of Legos.
Oh yeah.
Playmobil.
Okay.
As well as the Ugly Dolls movie. So you can see this person clearly has a niche. And we don't know much about the movie. Why is my phone in my pocket? I need to look at it. But the producer had this quote where they said, "As huge fans of the game, we're struck by the endless possibilities of stories that it could inspire. It's not every day that you have the opportunity to work in a world beloved by millions of people and expand its story for the screen." Inspiring words, to say the least. So, I mean, this is...
Let me break down the quote.
Break it down.
So the first part I actually agree with. This is abstract enough because it's just sort of like either settling a world that is Catan, whatever this continent island thing. I think you could do, it's not very rigid. You can do something very interesting. Granted, now hearing what the writer's other, things he's working on leaves a little bit. A world beloved by millions, I'm going to have to disagree with it. The game might be liked and enjoyed by millions, but I don't think everyone's like, I love the world of Catan.
Right. Yeah, no one who loves Catan ever comes away saying, man, I can't stop thinking about that world. Those hills, those forests.
What's the story behind the sheep?
So intriguing. Now, this is not the first time we know they're also working on the Catan Digital Stories app. So it seems like definitely Asmodee or whoever else is involved, the Catan company, they definitely are wanting to turn Catan into that. I think they realized, hey, we have a giant property, we should be milking this more.
And like I said in the beginning, the first part of the quote, I do think the idea of a Catan movie actually doesn't seem that far, you could do something with it,
It's basically a blank slate, is what I think what you're saying. So it's not like you could, whatever you did, if you had a good story, you could easily just say, and this place is called Catan.
Right. I guess that would
there's not, but I mean, what I'm curious about, whatever would make a good movie for Catan, I don't know what direction they're going to go.
That's true.
So one of the other things they said also is that they are interested in turning this into a franchise.
I don't know how that's going to work.
And this is Sony, and they do also animated. This might be an animated kids movie.
Oh, that's the other thing. I've been,
I don't know what it's going to be.
I don't know why, but in my head when Catan Movie picturing it, some reason I thought live action. I saw people farming and stuff.
Right, right. Which I don't know what it could be like a comedy for kids. It could be.
Also, the weird thing is that when you said franchises matching expansion, the videos the sequels are just the expansions Catan, Knights and Pirates. I can't remember the name of the expansion. That's literally they just
Seafarers, Cities and Knights.
Yeah, Cities and Knights.
We don't need to name them all. Because Catan is a family game, so I can't imagine them making a movie that doesn't appeal to kids as well.
That's gonna be.
So that's weird to me.
And that's the weird thing because I wonder what you could do, but I definitely feel if you went. If I know you have to, because as you said, Catan's a family game. If you're willing to go up, so to speak, in your rating, I think you could do something a bit more interesting with a feudal system. And
yeah.
However, I mean, we've seen plenty of times when we've seen a kids movie tackle something that obviously, usually a parent would be like, I don't want my kids watching and doing so. I mean, I could be proven wrong.
Yeah. It's also a hard sell for...
Also, ugly dolls in
It's a hard sell to say to, hey kids, come see this fun movie about farmers who chop down trees. Like, there's nothing exciting about the story of this game.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you went higher, then you could do more like, even though I'd say this is a bit overplayed nowadays, but like some kind of scandal more like with the people in the village or something weird like that.
Like a Game of Thrones type thing?
A little bit more like that, yeah, honestly.
I think they should get Terrence Malick to direct it. Anyway, I don't think it'll be too long. I bet within a year or two we're going to find out more. Maybe it'll come out even. I don't know. Who knows what's going on with them, but...
It's actually all 3D meeples.
This will be the first... I mean, yeah, we have Clue, and there's been talk about Monopoly movie that I think is not happening anymore. But this would, I think, ostensibly be the first big board game movie, you know what I mean? For at least for the modern age, so...
Well, I think what's interesting is, you said Clue, but the thing is Clue has named people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I never claimed this was as good an idea as that.
I'm not saying it's good, but I'm just saying it's interesting to see what happens here, because this is the first more abstract, I guess it would be the right term.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like, even, it's interesting because Magic the Gathering, which doesn't have a movie yet, they're like, we need named people first. That like, the whole Planeswalker thing, honestly, I think is just to have be like, this is Jace Berlin, this is Nicol Bolas. Like, you can actually name someone.
Yeah.
You don't have that in Catan.
Yeah, you don't love sheep. It doesn't even say sheep on it. Knight. My favorite character is Knight. All right, so we'll find out more about that. I'll keep you up to date. Mm-hmm. Perhaps more exciting though.
Oh yes.
If you don't like movies as much, you prefer the smaller screen. Maybe you've enjoyed Stranger Things on Netflix. Mm-hmm. We both have.
I have not.
Yes, you have. I'm just a liar. And of course, there's some D&D stuff in that show, which is cool. Mm-hmm. Well, they've announced Hasbro is working on a card game of Stranger Things that is Eggo related. And a
2-for-1.
A 2-for-1, that's right. If you love Eggos or Stranger Things, you can buy this game. Essentially, it is Uno, is from the sounds of it, where you're actually gonna be picking a character from the show, and you're trying to get rid of the cards in your hand, you're playing reverses, etc. But there's sort of a twist where you can be sent to the upside down somehow, and then make your way back. But it's basically a fancy licensed version of Uno. This will probably be all the rage at Christmas this year everywhere at Target. I'm assuming you're going to see this.
Now, I know probably going off when you saying that, you're probably like, oh, it's just Uno in your head. Mm-hmm. But I almost like that a little bit because Stranger Things, a lot of it is, the childhood 80s sort of.
That's true. That's true.
And they make it like that basic game that people more likely to play back then almost fits more. So like, I mean, it's not that complicated game and delves into the, the actual interesting story and plot lines that Stranger Things actually presents in its show. But it almost still fits really nicely because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame them for making this game. Right. I can't get mad about like an obvious correct marketing decision. They're gonna make money off it, and it's simple, and it could be, like you said, an all right filler game. And yeah, I think that there's something to be said for that sort of incidental theming that they probably did not intend.
Yeah, but I think it's just something that is sort of nice, just for if you are a fan, you're disappointed, you can see at least it fits the world, I guess would be.
Yeah, they could have done one better and just made an RPG.
Oh, I wish. I feel like every time there's some show we like that has some kind of depth, it's like, that would make an RPG.
Well, I mean, if you want to go with the 80s theme, I mean, that's literally, they played in the show. Right. But also, it is, for Stranger Things, there's so many avenues you could explore for a board game.
And we'll see what happens with season. Is it called Season 2? I'm not sure.
I think technically they're just calling it Stranger Things 2.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that.
But yeah, it's Season 2. But if you want this Eggo game, I'm not sure exactly when it's coming out, but soon. I would imagine around the time the show premieres, which is later this month.
I mean, that would be a marketing mistake.
It really would. They would really be leg-going those sales.
But
it's not even... No. Let's check that out. Now, before we move on to the rest of the show, we're going to return to one of our most popular new segments. The only new segment we've introduced in the last year, probably, which I think we're now calling Reddit on Reddit.
Yes. Temporarily until someone tells us that 6 other shows.
I don't know. I mean, what's going on Reddit, I liked, but I understand. We opted for maybe a catchier team. So we're digging into the r/board game subreddit of Reddit to see some interesting topics, find out what the people are buzzing about, maybe give a little of our own thoughts and opinions. A few topics that I found were interesting, threads as they call them. This one is called Pet Peeves, from user Ryguy the Pie Guy. And he asks what pet peeves people have that other people do during board games. The example that he gives is he has a friend who calls any currency in any game, no matter what game it is, dollars. And for some reason that just really annoys this guy. A bunch of people said, I saw things like...
I know one that I'm just going to be shocked is not on that list, because it's your pet peeve.
Well, there were some things, and maybe this is what you're going to say, is being on your phone.
Oh, yeah. No.
Which, I guess, that's a very valid pet peeve.
I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying it's...
No, I was just, when I heard pet peeve and I heard the example, I was thinking more of, to me, that's almost like, that's beyond pet peeve. That's just like you're not playing the game. Whereas, calling things dollars is a much more innocuous, just kind of silly thing. But a lot of people said things like not listening to the rules.
I can see the phone thing being more a manners less than a pet peeve. Like,
yeah, sort of.
Calling something a dollar really isn't manners
It's really, just kind of like...
something that just rubs you the wrong...
Yeah, it's like completely irrational. But a pet peeve could be either thing. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard for us to maybe talk about it because all our pet peeves would be with our same group. So.
I'm fine. I've got one right off the bat.
Yeah.
This happens in multiple games, but really the big one is the DC deck building game. Or the Cryptozoic deck building game. Every time, no matter who beat it, the boss, and take the card read. Before we've set up and ready to reveal the next one, my brother just takes the card and reads it himself. And that just bothers me. Like, wait until everyone's ready and we'll reveal it to everyone.
No, well,
and then I'll take the card sometimes and he gets angry at that.
I also think that happens a lot in any game where a card flips out, one person will just grab it and read it no matter what. And it's like, oh, I just wonder what that says. Maybe you could read that out loud.
I know we're all going to see it. It's just, I don't know, it bothers me.
Yeah, that's not bad. Phones for me, not paying attention. Everyone's such common things, but analysis paralysis, which everybody's also inflicted by. No, I don't think anyone is completely free of that in a game, but it can be bad. Some other ones people said were like thinking really far ahead, or the opposite. If someone appears to, which I know we've experienced, just not care either way, whether they win or lose.
I think it's dependent on the game and scenario. Like sometimes it's good because it can actually throw off. Like I like that sometimes because it throws the game off. That you have to also learn how to move around with that.
Maybe
because you can always have that one person in the group who can predict everyone.
It depends on if it's like your first time playing the game or it's a really strategic game and you're like, oh, maybe you don't want to play, just don't play. I don't know. So anyway, those are some pet peeves. There's some valid ones in there. We got another one that I thought was kind of an interesting thinker. From user Hephaestus Incognito. I haven't played any of the entry-level board games. Am I missing out? Basically, this person said they kind of got into the deep end of the board gaming pool, and they never went back and played games like Catan, Dominion, Pandemic, and they're wondering, is it worth it to even go back and play those? So what gateway games do you think are actually worth it, or are there any that you think you should just avoid if you missed out on them?
I almost, honestly, usually even some of the bad games we played, I'm glad we played once, first off. So maybe it's still worth it. So when people say something like, oh, okay, I played Catan. I definitely would argue that, at least for me, Pandemic and Dominion both are worthy, even though they're entry. I think Pandemic is a good cooperative game in general, and especially when you have the legacy game coming out and stuff. If you want to do a group, it's good to just play the regular one first and just have the general mechanics underneath. And this one's more for me. I know maybe not for you, but honestly, most deck building games I'm fine with. So Dominion, isn't really a downer for me, especially since if you have more expansions, you can do all these weird combinations to really shift it up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would also add Ticket to Ride to that list.
Of course, yeah.
I think that's definitely one that holds up.
I still want to play that every now and then.
Yeah.
Especially the newer ones. I want to do Rails and Sails again.
Catan is actually one I would say, honestly, play it if you have the chance just because it's a classic, you should experience it, but I definitely wouldn't say buy it. If you're that deep in, I definitely think that's one that...
I'm sure you can find someone who has a copy.
Yeah. Munchkin is another very good example of if you missed it, that's okay, I think. Those are pretty good examples.
Honestly, it comes down to making sure you have people to play with.
Yeah, it depends on who your group is. If you want something, if you have more newer players maybe, or if you're always playing with the more hardcore group. Another topic from Ka Modica Dragon. Question, does a game's box size deter you from buying it? Essentially, they want to know, in terms of space, would you not buy a game because the box is too big? Or a lot of people brought up tins, of course. I know that a lot of people don't like when games are in tins. But how much of a factor is it for you at all when you're looking at a board game, the size of the box? For me, honestly, it's something I almost never think about until it's on my shelf. I never am thinking about what that box is going to look like.
Honestly, for me, usually when I look at a game box, I may groan if it has a weird long shape or something, or a tin. I admit I really don't like the tins. But at the same time, I know worst comes worst. If it's like the worst box shape, like that's some weird 3D boxing, I could take out the components and put it in something else if I really had to.
That's true.
So, but at this point, yeah, I don't think I don't think it'll ever be a factor to me to not buy a game, but I'll still complain about it.
Now, what do you think about one of the comments was theorizing that at some point there may be a standardized box size, the way that for computer games there eventually were, where all games would have to be the same size. Honestly, we're really close to that.
If you notice, a lot of the games that start off with a long version have made a second edition that's a 12 by 12. That is the standardized, which, I think is great. If you look, I got my shelf here from IKEA. We posted many pictures before, and I'm sure more shelves will be similar to that. A 12 depth, even if it's a long game, as long as you can put it in nice and flat, a lot of people I think would prefer.
Yeah,
I don't think it's really the depth as much as the 12 by 12 is.
I think that would be great.
Close in terms of bigger games. I don't think smaller ones might have that as much, but because they're smaller, it's almost they're designed to be as small as possible to fit whatever components.
I think I also like the idea of board game designers having to limit themselves a little and maybe, not necessarily be able to be like, well, my game board is this big, so that's how big my box is going to be. To kind of, even I don't want to get rid of that forever because, sometimes those games should exist, but I think a lot of times limitations can improve a game if they're forced to think that aspect through.
I think the few games I know have long now that are newish, usually, not defined, I think earn the right because they have so much stuff in them. Usually, it's very rare or because they're meant to hold, it's a weird collector's box. Which I understand then. In the end though, I think what's more important actually is not the outside of the box for me, but the inside. Honestly, if I was deciding between two games, regardless of how they look on the outside, if I heard one had a better insert that fit all the packaging in, I'd probably buy that first.
I can't blame you there. All right, final topic from Reddit, that very relevant because we were just talking about this the other night. From user JustGen89, no one else. Their question is, how do you cull your collection? They're starting to run out of room for games, and they're trying to decide how to get rid of games and when. And I know we were just looking at, because I have a closet and I've been running out of space, and I've been kind of taking games that I feel like we don't play and putting them in that closet. I don't know, I think we've both run into this problem to some extent. How do you...
I'm sorry, correct. Yeah. We're both running into this problem. It's constant. It's not...
Yes, have and will again. For me, I generally look at my shelf and say, well, when I look at my shelf, how many scenarios do I really see myself suggesting this game over another one? And if there's a pretty good chance there isn't one, or there are many that I would recommend over it, I'm probably going to just, you know what, take it off.
So right now, I'm pretty much at that point. I'm not counting that shelf over there. If you've seen the Zoom Up stuff, we have like all the Hasbro games. I honestly brought them down. Like, these are the ones I collected. Yeah, or just to be over there, we call it the shelf of shame. But I'm at the point when this is pretty
Real
full,
games.
and I've fixed things really. Like, I've tried to optimize as best as possible. I do feel, at least I feel for us, it's a little bit harder because I feel because we do this podcast and stuff, we almost want to have the games on standby to talk about and then do a video for, try to get through all of them and stuff. So we're on a little bit different compared to maybe some other people.
Yeah, we're also sometimes getting review copies and preview copies. And
Our friend asked you about, like, why do you keep getting games? It's like the last 10 games I got were review. Like,
yeah, like I can't help it. It's not my fault. I'm a victim.
So that's, I think, a little bit harder for us personally to answer. Mm-hmm. I know with other people, obviously giving them away to like garage sales or people in need is always a big thing.
Board Game Geek, there's always like the math trades and stuff you could do, or on Reddit where you can trade up. Of course, that doesn't really solve your space problem, but maybe if you keep a consistent collection size, you just keep rotating them out. Something you could do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, something to think about because I want to get rid of like half my games.
Well, and the other big thing that helped us, I don't know how much this would help certain people.
Bag of holding.
Yeah.
Go on.
But if you are getting all the Cryptozoic deck building, you'd have a lot of boxes. But I put them all in that big white box.
Yeah.
And just drew on it, and that I'm pretty sure saves a lot of space. And same thing with your Legendary.
Create your own storage. I also get very excited if I get expansions and manage to fit them all in one box and don't have to deal with.
Oh, that is such a good feeling.
Yeah. Anyway, if you got a Reddit post you thought was interesting, you can send it our way. We'll maybe talk about it on the show. Now let's get on to some Kickstarter picks. It is almost Halloween, so here's a spooky one that you might want to take a look at called Haunt the House.
Yes, in this game, you are all specters or ghosts in a house, and you are trying to get the best collection of items from the ghost hunters who are invading your house. Each ghost hunter has specific things to scare them, like 3 books dropping and a shiver. In your hand, you'll be drawing cards of these kinds of different ways to scare people, the creaking noises, the ghost shiver. And you may either play them openly onto the ghost hunter to activate whatever room ability they have, or you can hide them. And then at any time you can call boo. You're instantly saying, I think this guy's ready to be cleared. But you then reveal the hidden ones, and if you don't, it's going to penalize you. But if you do, you get the rewards and the items that have like a candle or a crowbar and stuff. So it's sort of a interesting bluff game where you want to try to put the resources to capture a guy, but you don't want to put too many, or you want to try to trick people to try to think you're trying to capture this ghost.
Got it. I did see this one caught my eye, and I thought the art looks really cool.
Mm-hmm. Fun thing, Kickstarter exclusive box. I'm not sure if it's the regular one, or the higher one, but it will glow in the dark.
That's pretty neat. There is, I feel, a weird thing with these Halloween Kickstarters that come up around Halloween that's almost like such a tease because it's Halloween, like the perfect time to play that game, and you got to wait like 7 months or a year to actually play it. So it's always, I like when they say it'll be ready for next Halloween. So at least that's something you can have. Like I think I backed a game last Halloween that's still not out yet. But yeah, that looked like fun. This one goes for only $23.
Yeah.
At the house for glow in the dark box. That'll probably annoy a lot of people if it's on their shelf and one game's just glowing in the dark constantly.
Well, if all your lights are off.
Your mileage may vary. All right. Next, here's a game that I don't know if
really big one.
I don't know if we've talked about it on the show before.
It was actually part of our excitement for Gen Con because it was on the list.
That's right. From Van Ryder Games, this game called Detective. It's got a subtitle, Detective City of Angels. And it's definitely inspired by stuff like the movie LA Confidential, this general 50s, 60s Hollywood mystery noir style. And it's essentially a detective game in the vein of Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective, games of that ilk. The difference in this one is, rather than everyone working together and just having a book to work from, one player actually is the sort of the GM, and when you're questioning a suspect, that player actually is going to be deciding whether the person you're talking to lies or not, how much they lie, what exactly they say, and you as the detective will be able to, try to push harder if you think they're bluffing, etc. So even though they're fixed cases with a singular a solution, the way they play out is almost always going to be very different. And at least for the person doing the case, you'll be able to replay them different times and see the different scenarios.
And the other thing is, I think it wouldn't be too hard when playing this. It's like, let's say the first case you went through and you decide to be the GM or whatever they call it. Mm-hmm. But the next one, I could take it then.
Yeah, you could definitely then do it for a different group.
I don't think it, at least from what I can tell, it doesn't lock anyone in, which is great.
Yeah.
And I mean, we love these story detective games, as we said. It's the thing we love. So that's why it made our list back in Gen Con, and why as soon as this came out, I didn't even get a chance. I'm like, oh, this looks cool. Jonathan backed it.
Yeah, this comes from Van Ryder Games, who also did Hostage Negotiator and a couple other ones that I think were really cool. So I'm a big fan of this company. This also has been hitting a bunch of stretch goals, including one to design your own mystery case, which is really cool.
Which I'm really excited about.
So if that appeals to you, that's an awesome reason to back this game. So check it out if you like storytelling detective games. This one goes for the $64. There's also an expansion you can get for some extra cases on there. And then finally, Neon Knights, which is looks like the 80s.
Actually, the year is 2086.
Oh, so I was right. I never specified
the population has been divided into the rich and the poor, and you're trying to get into the rich. To do so, you're going to be trying to become a Neon Knight. The way the game works is you can either do a campaign or some single. There's different modes, which is cool. Pretty much you're all getting part in these weird races. And what happens is you actually play through a week. And each day you can do different actions like get neuromods to help your racer, try to get sponsorships, upgrade your car, repair your car. And the very last day is the race day. And during that race, it's similar to Formula 1,
Formula D,
sorry. You choose different speeds to go through, but it doesn't seem as much you blow up instantly. You can take damage. But then you also have to worry about, people can have weapons to shoot you, but you can have shields, but they're one time, but they're spots on the track, which will be if you land on this spot, you recharge your shield. So it's not just go fast. You're also going to want to think of, I want to go around this turn correctly.
Sounds like F-Zero a little bit.
A little, yeah. And you actually gain or lose fans depending on if you take damage, or if you go around a turn and able to drift successfully fast enough. So it seemed like taking Formula D and adding a lot more RPG elements to it in a campaign.
I really like that idea of a racing game where there's also you do prep for it too. There's 2 phases. That sounds cool.
No, I definitely thought that was really cool.
I will admit, and I just looked at the art of the cover, I was like, I feel like I'm a little, like Laser Riders. I'm a little tired now of the 80s Tron aesthetic, but the gameplay does sound cool, so I'll give them credit for that. And this one goes for $47, Neon Knights. All those Kickstarters are available right now if you want to check them out, or recommend one to us that we missed. Games that we played. Time to talk about them. First up, we played an old game, a little over 10 years old, called The Pillars of the Earth.
Yes, I've had this one for a while, and it's one of those things that every time I bring it, it's either not enough people or too many. It's just never fit. We finally got the chance to play it.
I mean, as I said before, I just looked at the box of this game and just fell asleep. It looks so much like a dry Euro game.
It's also funny because only recently did I realize, this is based off a book that's a series too.
Based off a book series that we have never read, which also was a mini series on TV. I mean, not getting into how the game was yet. If the story of the books is very similar to the story of this game, they must be very dull. But I don't know.
This is the Catan Movie.
yeah, it could be. So the story of the game is a cathedral's being built, and you're hiring workers.
You're all the builders building it, and you're trying to prove you're the best one.
Yeah, and basically you're gathering resources. It's a worker placement.
With victory points.
With victory points, yeah. I mean, it's very straightforward, similar to other Euro kind of worker placement games. You have cubes, they're resources. You can spend them, you get money, and etc. So, after all this time, what do you think?
I mean,
was it worth the wait?
I actually did enjoy it a lot, and I will say I also came in dead last.
Oh, yeah.
And the game is really, I do think there isn't as nearly many options. Like, I think that you said this is the first worker placement game where you weren't like, oh, I want everything. You're like, oh, I just those two.
It was definitely not like Agricola where you're constantly like, oh, if only I had another thing. This one was like, oh, I know what I want.
I think resource cubes, there's a bit more, like you'd think that if I only had one more and stuff, but it wasn't nearly as, punishing it felt at first. But it's definitely, there's an interesting take of managing your resources, I think, is the bigger thing in this game. Like, you have two different kinds of work. You have the pawns, which would be the worker placement part. Mm-hmm. And then you actually have workers, which are more like a resource to buy resources. Like, I need to send 6 workers to get this many wood, or 3 workers to get that much sand kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And that's really, I think, where we were more thinking like, oh, if I had a few more workers, I'd be able to get that stone and that sand.
Yeah, no, that element was definitely interesting. Even though I'm like kind of making fun of this game, I did enjoy it. It did have a good amount of, there were things to think about in it. I like that they had the two, like you said, the two different sort of currencies. Mm-hmm. That's technically 3 because you also actually had, golds, money,
right.
Dollars, you might say.
And one thing I did love about that, the money wasn't that it gave you money. There's a money tracker, which is almost so nice just to be like, I don't need to hand out tokens. You can just slide that along.
It's also very interesting, the way that the order of placement worked was the pieces are randomly drawn out of a bag, and if your piece comes up first, you have to pay a pretty high amount of money to actually place your piece if you want to, or you can wait, save your money, but you might not get the thing that you want.
Right.
So that also added an interesting choice aspect.
Yeah, like I do think mechanically I joined the game a lot and had a lot of fun. Definitely probably would be willing to play again. Once again, I think my biggest gripe with the game, and probably with a lot of Euro games, is just aesthetically, as you said, you fell asleep looking at it.
Yeah, no, very, very dry. Ultimately, I liked this game. I would play it again, but it's just not really my kind of thing.
Yeah, I think maybe that's just because we're not as many Euro games. We need everything bright and flashy.
I mean, a little bit. Like, I can appreciate, but like I said, this is definitely... You could tell, I think, that this game came out in 2006, which for some people, they will love that. For me, it felt dated, and I felt like, while I like this, I mean, even Agricola, which also came out a fairly long time ago, I think is definitely more interesting and exciting than this game. But it has things to complement.
By the way, we should say there is apparently an expansion for it. I don't know if to get it, because currently both are out of print, so it's very hard to get.
Yeah, this game is not in print right now.
Make changes. But overall, I do think we're, like I said, we're not big Euro games, so I still had a lot of fun with it. So if you enjoy Euro games, see if you can find a way to, like, if there's a board game library somewhere near you or at a convention, see if you can get a chance to play it. Because it was, I think, a very fun worker placement that was like, it's almost, it takes back, as you said, like Agricola with too much, which lets you focus more on trying to just get those little bit of extra in your engine. Working. This
is one I can understand people like having a nostalgia for it from that era. I think the expansion, this is a game that I definitely would want an expansion for, because that would probably be one of my main criticisms. I felt like there wasn't a lot there.
Well, my big thing I wasn't sure about, and maybe this comes from being like enjoying my Ameritrash, is that you pretty much 4 workers you can hire, like special workers, I forget what they call them. They're cards that let you trade resources for points or money, whatever, each round. But it will always be the same 4 workers per round. So part of me was like, I remember I said this in the game, does that make it very solvable?
It's something similar, like games like Olympus for me. I kind of felt the same way, where a lot of other Euro games where I felt like...
There's a meta shit, but yeah, like Olympus,
there's very little randomness.
You want to be the first person to get either the deer one, the wheat one, or the...
You basically know what you want to do if you've played it a few times. There's not as much variability in there, which is why the expansion maybe changes that. So if as you like those kinds of games, look for Pillars of the Earth. If you've read the book, let us know.
Or
or seen the. I think it was like maybe was it British? It was like a BBC show or something.
Come on, do you see the cover of that game? How's it not?
Apparently, this is like a best-selling series. So anyway. We also we have played Shadowrun Crossfire before, but we for the first time started our campaign of the game, so we did 2 missions. The first one we succeeded, second one we failed.
This is with the Crossfire expansion thrown in, though we didn't use the new roles of I think it's Drone Rigger and Adept Mage. It's like their hybrid heroes. I thought because we're playing with 3 people, best stick with the classic stuff. Mm-hmm. We played the introductory one. I think that comes in the Crossfire one first, which was nice just because let us remember how to play again, which is really good. And we enjoyed it a lot. And playing the second one, even though we lost, once again, it was lost because it was one of those things I know for some people that would make or break their experience of like just the worst storm hitting us.
Yeah.
But because that even though you lose, you still get some experience back and we can try it again. It just feels like playing a video game like another level and just trying to beat it correctly.
Yeah.
If that makes...
No, it makes sense. Yeah, well, it's not quite as devastating as some other games. It is interesting the way the campaign works because it seems it's not really... You can kind of do these missions in any order you want, and then you can repeat them too. So it's almost like a...
And I mean, I was controlling the
campaign?
mission, so you didn't really see it, but they also say things like, if you have already earned this much karma, which is the experience points, you actually get a punishment. So you can't just repeat. You can't farm boars in the hills until you can take on the
That's funny.
boss.
I really liked in one of the scenarios we did, the special rule was you could pay 1 new yen to have one of the obstacles or enemies attacking you potentially attack another obstacle, which was actually really helpful when you had a lot of enemies out to make things a little easier on you at a cost, but not an unreasonable one. So that was a really fun thing that it wasn't in another scenario, but really changed the way the game played.
Yeah, I am still excited to play Shadowrun Crossfire. The one thing, I have not played the Pathfinder card game. Or the was it
D&D version of this?
Yeah. So I don't know if they had these changes stuff. The one thing I wish they could have done with the campaign a little bit somehow, and I don't know how you could, but like somehow like our deck would carry on some cards over somehow, I think would be sort of cool.
It is a little strange.
But that might be also really overpowered too.
It's a little jarring when it's near the end of the game and you're realizing, oh, this deck is gone next mission after you feel like you've built it up. I mean, it makes sense because it's a deck building game, so like you gotta keep building, and otherwise it would be kind of ridiculous. But yeah, maybe if I don't know if you just said this,
there was
you
one
could keep like one card
that
or
lets
something.
you do that.
Okay.
But it was named for a specific card.
You get to upgrade your character and get new abilities, but your deck always restarts.
But I still think overall this is still going to be a really fun game. We can't wait to try to get more, and hopefully someday try to take on the dragon.
Yeah, that card is ridiculous. I will say, even though I really like this game a lot, for some reason this time we played it, I felt like I noticed more how much of it was number crunching, and I have this many colors, I'm going to assign them to that. It reminded me a little of how Sentinels sometimes can be, you almost forget about the theme a little bit, and you can get caught up pretty easily, I think, in just the puzzle logic aspect of it.
No, that's true,
which is a little bit of a bummer for me.
I think 2 of the reasons why that is one, remember, there was a whole booklet about the world of Shadowrun, including like slang terms and stuff. We did not read that. We weren't getting into character or anything.
Well, yeah, but I doubt most people do when they play this.
No, true. But I mean, this does play almost like it's trying to be like the Pathfinder card game. It's almost like you're playing the RPG, but there's cards. I definitely want to someday try the Shadowrun Pathfinder RPG. Because I mean, I love the world and stuff. It just sounds.
No, I definitely do too. It's a great theme and aesthetic. It's really cool. So Shadowrun Crossfire, and watch our earlier video on this Searcher channel too, because we have a lot. We had more thoughts about our initial gameplay. We also played a little bit of this Total Rickall, the Rick and Morty card game from Cryptozoic. based on that episode. This is a deduction game with sort of two modes. The one we did was the one that doesn't have any hidden traitors, so it's fully cooperative. There are characters, some of them are real, some of them are parasites, and it's randomly determined, and you are trying to figure out which ones are which, and you want to kill the parasites and save the real people. If you haven't seen this Rick and Morty episode, you should go watch it. We might like spoil it a little bit. I don't know.
Fun story. We wanted to play this last time, but someone was like, no, I haven't seen like this season. Like he skipped a season and someone else hadn't seen it. It's just, so you're just like, finally, everyone here has seen the episode.
Yeah, it's really, if you want someone to have an experience unsullied of that episode of the show.
Which is a good one.
Yeah, one of my favorites. This game definitely will ruin that for them. Anyway, we tried it. It's fairly simple. It's definitely on the lighter, but again, we did the non-advanced mode, so there's a little more going on in the more advanced mode that I think will definitely improve the game. But we had a decent amount of fun with. We kind of played it twice after we got our heads around it. Technically 3 times.
Because we started in the one game and started off with a certain card, who, if you kill him and he's real, you just lose the game. And of course, the first thing someone does is kill him.
Yup, they immediately are like, I'll shoot them, flipped it over, they're real. That's it. Turn 1. Done. We had a good laugh about that. What did you think about it? And I mean, do you think the hidden roles will make it better? It was interesting to have a game like this where you were working together.
I do think it's going to be interesting because I felt like with the way we were working together, it was almost the only times we had issues where you were like, I only have kill cards in my hand. And we didn't want to kill anyone.
Right. There are times, which it does make it interesting because...
No, it does. And I'm not saying it's not the worst thing. It's just that I think that will help with the hidden mechanic part.
Right. And in that mode, you can also shoot each other. So there's like PvP, which is really a game changer.
I do think it is a good light game for a popular medium that isn't... I don't think it's too bad. Like, it's still, I think, a lot of fun people will have with if you're anywhere on the fan rating.
Yeah, I mean, for how small it is and not very expensive, if you like Rick and Morty, you could definitely do worse. Yeah, by which I mean the Mr. Meeseeks Party Box.
We haven't fully played that or the Jurassic Anatomy
I played
Park.
enough.
I have played the deck building game, and I think this one's a little bit better if you're just a casual fan because it would be easier to set up and stuff. I mean, while the other one's deck building, I mean, which, as we've said, is a pretty easy entry point, most deck building games. I think this one you'll feel more fun because you'll see all the characters from that particular episode, so you'll be like, oh, it's this person stuff, and, you know.
Yeah, it's fun, it's light, if you like Rick and Morty, you know. It ain't gonna change your life, but you might like it. I also played a little Codenames Duet.
That's true, I was...
just one game, and if you were wondering, yes, it is Codenames. Now finally, before we go, just a few comments from the Meeple Gallery that I want to touch on. We talked about the Resident Evil 2 Kickstarter game last week, and how maybe other Resident Evil games might be good as board games. Corvo Atano said Resident Evil 4 and 7 would be awesome quest or story-driven board games.
I haven't played 7, I should.
We've definitely played 4, though.
I've heard little things about 7.
Right. I'm not sure exactly. What he means by quest story-driven. Quest like Descent, story-driven like Sherlock Holmes. Descent probably is more what he's talking about, or like kind of a dungeon crawler type game. Maybe.
No, I think that would be good, and I think what would be sort of cool because I remember one of the things I really liked about 4 was the item management. Like you literally had to Tetris your suitcase.
No, that'd be a cool addition.
Because you could easily you give everyone a little board.
There's also just some very cool environments to have boards of, like the castles and stuff, and the village in the beginning. There's some very cool things you could do from Resident Evil 4.
There's a reason why most people like 4.
Yeah, we were talking about the new Fallout game from Modifius. Andrew Eckert said, I was confused because I first thought you were talking about the Fantasy Flight Fallout game. Didn't realize there are 2 coming out. Interested how 2 companies ended up with the same license. Mel Primus then chimed in. A lot of IP licenses are very specific on what they cover. Likely Fantasy Flight got board and card. Modifius got miniatures game.
Right. Which
is interesting the way
this
this
actually why the Imperial Assault game is a miniatures game.
Right.
And he actually says that's why it comes with miniature expansion, the core set. Because it's not a board game, it's a miniatures game.
Yeah, yeah. Fantasy Flight seems to like to do that sort of deal. It is very interesting how specific those contracts can get, and also interesting still that there's these 2 Fallout games coming out like around the same time, both announced around the same time. I'm guessing
the
Bethesda.
Was first, I'm pretty sure.
I'm guessing Bethesda was the one who shopped it at the same time, and that's why they both got it. And that's where the coincidence comes in, because it's not like they're coming out with the game or anything. They're like a year and a half later.
Oh, you didn't hear Fallout 5 wasn't out.
Oh, that's crazy. Anyway, so whichever one of those you like. And we also talked about that new Magic logo. Falcon Ash K agreed with us, said, nope, not a fan of the new logo. There should be the old font with the 5 colors. The 5 colors are no longer part of this new logo, which I guess is another sort of iconic aspect that they're...
Well, that literally is one of the core mechanics of the game.
It's fairly essential. You probably couldn't do much without that. I don't know. I think they should come out with just 2 colors.
I guess you could do the colorless deck and just only artifacts.
That's all you need. If you have a comment for the show or a question about anything you want us to talk about, please leave it right here on YouTube, where you could also go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel for more coming your way in the future. Much, much more.
And of course, you can let us know in so many other places. We're on Twitter at Roll4Crit, Instagram, Facebook. So much.
Yes, so much. And there's also our website, roll4crit.com, where you can find more of these podcasts and videos and other cool stuff. Plus, we actually sell some board games over there. You definitely want to check that out if you're a board game person. And if you're not, I can't believe you watched this whole video. It's weird. You skipped
Good on you.
I don't know. It's very strange. So keep the... for next time, since it's October, let us know what spooky games that you're playing, or if you have anything planned for Halloween this month. Till then, I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and you've been watching Roll for Crit.